Assalomu alaykum, hurmatli talabalar. Bugun sizlar bilan Haydarova D.Д nomidagi O'zbekiston Milliy universiteti Ingliz filologiyasi kafedrasi o'qituvchisi. Fanimiz o'qish va yozma nutq kўникмалари birinchi kurs kechki bo'lim uchun bag'ishlangan Developing Critical Thinking Skills in Writing deb nomlangan amaliy mashg'ulotimizni boshlaymiz. Amaliy mashg'ulotimizni ingliz tilida olib borsam. So, our topic is about critical thinking in writing. Let me just explain what is critical thinking is. So, critical thinking is a process of reflecting on the information we use to form our ideas or opinions. So, there are some questions are provided that might be effective or just essential in critical thinking skills. For example, when it's applied, who are the critical thinkers and where it's relevant or just essential, and how and why, and so some more just questions related to critical thinking. So, for example, when the critical thinking is highly applied or used, so critical thinking is very crucial or essential when we are researching or just learning or studying something, and where it's applied. It's just, frankly speaking, critical thinking skills is crucial in all areas of our life concerning the college and work, finance, medicine, and all studies spheres. So you have to look through at these questions, and we will go on by discussing the process or the effective steps of critical thinking. So, critical thinking that once any kind of question or just problem is identified, the most and the first and foremost step is just comprehension or understanding of any kind of data or fact or question. So after that, of course, you have to analyze the question or problem. That means that critical thinking is a process of actively analyzing and assessing, of course, and comparing then the facts and then information or just evidence. And you have to synthesize, that means combine or collect the facts or just relevant examples, and then you have to evaluate, of course, the facts or just information, and of course you have to apply your own, reflect or demonstrate your own just result of any kind of thinking process, of your critical thinking process, and you have to justify your own claim. Of course, there might be some counterclaim or opposite just sides. That means you have to provide and justify your own claim or own argument by providing the facts, examples, and information, statistics, of course. So from this process we can just conclude that critical thinking is how analyzing, process of actively analyzing and then assessing, synthesizing, comparing, reflecting on information that are gathered from your own experience or communication or observation or personal mindset. It's somehow ability to think in a clear, logical, reasonable, and a reflective manner. That means in order to solve the problems, to make a decision clearly, we have to get these critical thinking steps. So, critical thinking, frankly speaking, just looking at something to understand what it really means. So further, critical thinking skills steps for academic writing. As we have already noted that almost all steps that are implied just in critical thinking is highly required, implemented in writing, especially where you are asked to write argumentative writing. The most piece of writing requires you to analyze. First of all, it requires to analyze any kind of question or statement, and that means you have to brainstorm and reflect. You have to just provide some facts. You have to provide your own argument and relate your own statement to that second or further statement or argument. And finally, of course, you have to answer the question by providing your evidence and facts and statistics and relevant examples, of course. And there are critical thinking and academic writing skills, and differences and similarities are provided. So there is the statement how to prove your point using claim, evidence, and warrant. Of course, by using critical thinking skills. Why? In critical thinking steps, we had claim, we had evidence that observed and just analyzed it and reflected, and we had a warrant, just justification. So in critical thinking, there are some points of critical thinking. There are some points of writing skills. So in critical thinking, you have to think independently, provide original perspective on previous research, and you have to make connection and compare in just your own ideas and with other ideas. So in writing skills also almost same. You have to organize your discussion into logical points. You have to establish clear connections between ideas. You have to cite relevant sources, and you have to explain appropriately, but not just describe by quotes. And you have to give your own quotes and examples and facts and evidence. In argumentative writing, there are some must-have steps, just required steps. So first step is making a claim. That means there are, of course, provided two sides at least. That means you have to discuss both sides, and you have to support your own claim with the reasons, evidence. The next step is, of course, you have to just prove your own argument or statement by providing your own reasons and evidence and facts. You have to acknowledge the counterclaim. That means you have to admit or accept the second or just opposite side. If you just ignore or then the second opposite side by skipping the discussing the opposite side, you will lose absolutely your writing score according to the writing criteria. So don't just ignore the counterclaim, and you refute the counterclaim. Of course, you have to just disprove that counterclaim, just the second side, opposite side is wrong or false, and by providing your own just argument, and then by proving your own argument is true. And finally, you have to conclude with a strong statement. So in essay, there are tons of phrases so that you might show off your critical thinking skills by using these phrases. So it can be argued that there is evidence to suggest this supports this conclusion, etc. So here's the 3 red model of critical thinking skills. They are keys for critical thinking. For example, recognize assumptions. You have to evaluate arguments appropriately, logically, and draw the strong conclusion. By Watson, those that models are provided. So here is some implementation are required. Where do we need the critical thinking? Critical thinking skills help students to determine what to learn, how to approach, and etc. And there are sources and references are provided, and there are some discussion questions for you to discuss and to answer. And for example, how do you solve or how do you approach the question in writing? You have to, of course, relate the writing skills to the critical thinking skills. So further, that was the end of our lesson. So I hope you got some essential information. Try to think critically. Goodbye.